Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. We thank you all for joining us this morning. Thank everybody who's watching online for this Women's History Month Forum. I'm super excited for this conversation that we're having this morning with these four dynamic leaders here in our community. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Judge Ana Maria Martinez, let's give her a round of applause for joining us this morning. Commissioner Nicole Messiah. She is our commissioner right here in District 3. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Ladina Bolton, our Super District 7 commissioner. We thank her for joining us this morning. And then our very own DeKalb County CEO, Lorraine Cochran Johnson, is also here with us this morning. Yes, ma'am. Again, thank each of you for joining us this morning. It's just going to be a conversation. Again, thank you to everybody who's here in person. Thank you for all those who are watching online. Y'all, there is something special. And this isn't just about DeKalb County. It's not just about politics. Really, we want to get to know each of you individually. But there is something special about DeKalb County. DeKalb County, if I can say this, is run by women. And that's a beautiful thing. That is a beautiful thing. It really is. All the way from the CEO to many of our commissioners, our sheriff, many judges. The women are just not ruling DeKalb, but are doing amazing things, leading DeKalb. Yes, ma'am.
And if I might say, it is a historic moment because for the first time in the history of DeKalb County, the three top positions are held by African American women. And let me explain on the Board of Commissioners. Of course, I serve as the Chief Executive Officer. If anything were to happen to me, and this is why it's so important that you all vote properly, because you need level-headed good folk. If anything were to happen to me, Shakira Johnson would then become the CEO of DeKalb County. Next would be Dr. Ladina Bolton. So underneath me, there would be two women who would serve in the event that for any reason whatsoever I wasn't present. And that really warms my heart to see that women, and even whether we're talking judges or across the spectrum in DeKalb, our clerk of Superior Court, our sheriff, our solicitor, our district attorney, honestly, most all positions at this moment are held by women.
Yes, ma'am.
And I will add that starting next year, the next succession rate on the state court, the chief judge will be the first woman,
Wow.
Judge Kimberly Anderson. Then it will be the first African American woman, Judge
Wow.
Kimberly Alexander, and then the first Latina ever. It will be me.
Yours truly. Wow. Wow. So women are from top to bottom. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, and to add to that, all three branches of government that we have, the legislative, judiciary, and executive, are being held by women. So, of course, CEO in terms of executive branch, when it comes to the legislative branch, is Commissioner Shakira Johnson. And then the judiciary, we have Shandina Morris, who's our chief judge of Superior Court in DeKalb County. So, yes, all of those branches of government are being held by women.
And if I could add one more.
Absolutely.
We're going to be adding all day. So with respect to the Board of Commissioners, this is the first time in DeKalb's over 200-year history that the board has been majority women. 5 of the 7 commissioners are women.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Like I said, history. It's history. Well, let's start with each of you. We can go from left to right. Just introduce yourself and let the audience know who you are and what you do in your current role.
Fantastic. Well, great morning, everyone. My name is Nicole Messiah, and I have the distinct honor and pleasure to serve as your DeKalb County Commissioner, District 3. Also the chair of PECS, which is Planning Economic Development and Community Services. So I was elected in December of 2024 and have been ever since. So happy to be able to be here in this role, in this responsibility, and at such a time as this.
Right. Well, good morning, everyone. I am Ladina Bolton, affectionately known as Dr. B in the community. I'm our Super District 7 Commissioner, which means that I represent the entire eastern half of the county. So as far north as Doraville, you come down to Tucker, Stone Mountain, Stonecrest, Pine Lake, Lithonia, Ellenwood. So all the way down the east side of the county. But I also serve as the chair of what we refer to as ERPS, Employee Relations and Public Safety. And CEO alluded to the fact that I'm the deputy presiding officer over the Board of Commissioners. But I think one of the most important things to know about me is that I was raised in DeKalb County. I graduated from Avondale High School in 2002. So not only was I raised here, I'm raising my children here, and my husband also teaches here. So this is an opportunity for me to give back to the community that raised me to be the woman that I am today. And I thank each and every one of you for that.
Awesome.
Well, I am Lorraine Cochran Johnson, and I am so excited to serve as the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer of DeKalb County. Now, as Chief Executive Officer, we have 34 different divisions that provide essential services for DeKalb County. Prior to becoming the Chief Executive Officer, I served for 5 years, 3 months, and 10 days as the Super District 7 Commissioner, where I represented the same area, I won't repeat it all, that currently Dr. Bolton serves. And honestly, you know, each and every day is a new day. I feel so privileged to have the opportunity to help shape the future of DeKalb. And I'll leave it at that because I'm sure we'll get into that a little later.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is Judge Ana Maria Martinez. I am a state court judge here in the CAB. I have the privilege of being the first and only appointed and elected trial court judge who is of Latino or Latina in the history of Georgia. So I'm very, very proud to give of my time and to serve in this position and to represent the CAB. I was appointed in 2022 by Governor Kemp and was elected in 2024. And I run the only Spanish DUI court in the state of Georgia. So I'm very happy that we can provide that service to the citizens of the CAB.
Wow. So now you see why we invited them to join us this morning. Today, I just want to talk about you all's voice, your power, and your legacy. We're going to have some young ladies ask you a few questions a little bit later. But for them who are watching, who are listening, those who are online, as women, since birth, in one way or another, you've been considered the minority or less than, whether it's because you're a woman or a woman of color. Your voice, it matters, but sometimes those in our community would like to stifle your voice. So was there a moment in your journey when you realized that your voice actually mattered, and what happened in that moment? Whoever wants to tackle that first. A moment in your journey where you realized my voice matters, despite what people are saying, and what was that moment like, and how'd you overcome it?
I guess I'll go ahead and get started. I often say that I'm from LA, down in Lower Alabama, and I was a village kid raised in rural Alabama. And when I sit here and I hear, when did I realize I had a voice, I'm very thankful that my grandfather and those who were around me always taught me the importance of my voice. Now, whether or not people listen, I've always been vocal about my feelings. And most importantly, I was always taught to first study to show yourself approved before you speak, so that when you speak, people often lie, but numbers don't. So I've been very empirically based because of how I was raised. And I think, honestly, now more than ever, it's important for women to speak and to be vocal because, you know, if you take the word history, you break it down, it's his story. You know, in many instances, our stories would never be told if there wasn't someone who was willing to step forward and speak up on our behalf. So I think throughout my life, I've always known, but I've always tried to be very careful with what I say and how I say it. Because words matter, and also how we present ourselves. I think that's very important as well.
And I'll say for me, it was being quiet when I recognized how much my voice matters. You know, a lot of times when we are raised to speak out and speak openly and speak correct, we do that just by virtue of habit. However, you're challenged sometimes to just be quiet. And it was in a moment where, you know, I was just quiet. I didn't respond to what was going on. I didn't respond and speak up. And I realized that no one else was speaking up as well. So just in my silence, I realized that if I didn't, who else would? So that just showed the power of actually making sure that I used my voice, but also making sure when you're doing so very responsibly. There's one thing to be loud, there's another thing to be loud and wrong. So just making sure that when you do speak up, that you're speaking up in a right way and in a righteous way.
I can appreciate that. I like that you mentioned being quiet because it took me until becoming a mother to actually realize how important my voice was and how to use my voice. Growing up in DeKalb County, I was always the quiet, nerdy girl, you guys. You probably see me talk a lot all the time, but that's really outside of my comfort zone. I had to learn to become that person. But all of my life, I understood, was taught, and it was emulated in my life that as long as you do these things, you go to school, you graduate, you go to college, you get married, you know, you can live the American dream if you do all the right things at the right time for the right reasons. But it didn't work out that way for my family. We struggled a lot because we were hoping people would notice our work, notice our effort, notice we were doing the right things. But when I became a mother, it was important for me to recognize not only should I have been advocating for myself all of my life, but now I have another person that I need to advocate for. So it just, you know, it started with being involved with like your homeowners association or PTA. But what I learned, and I think what's most important about my voice is it resonates more when my voice is backed up with my actions. And so that kind of thrust me into getting more involved. It wasn't just about the vote, but what am I doing behind the vote and trying to make the impression in the community. And being a mother is the thing that jump-started all of that for me.
I moved to the United States when I was 12, and I did not speak English. I thought that I knew some English. I had taken English classes at school, but they had taught me things like, hello, how are you? And then I moved here, and people would come up to me and say, hey, what's up? and I would look up at the ceiling and go, I don't know what's up. And it was really difficult to be an outspoken, confident person, someone that I had been in Colombia, here when I couldn't speak, when people couldn't understand what I was thinking, what I was saying. And I told my mom, let's go back, let's go back, let's go back. And she, being the wise and amazing woman that she is, told me, we will go back to Colombia when you learn English. Because if I can give you one little thing, is the gift of bettering yourself and learning this language that will take you far. Fast forward a couple of months, and I learned English. And now I didn't want to go back. And I saw the need that our community had to have people that speak both languages, to be bilingual, to be able to speak for others, to stand up for others. And that was a great lesson for me. The fact that when you can communicate effectively, you're not just communicating for yourself, but you can also bring others' needs forward.
What I'm hearing is that even though there are barriers with your voice, that you all are saying you've learned over time that by using your voice, it'll not only benefit you, but it'll benefit your community. Madam CEO, I'm just thinking, this is just my mind. If, unfortunately, a woman, we're talking about women, but men and women, find themselves in court, unfortunately, and let's say they're charged with the crime, they do their time, they come out on the other side. Now they're back out in society, and they feel, I have a voice, but I have this stain on my life. People don't want to take me seriously. They don't want to allow me to have employment, whatever it is. What advice would you give someone, whether it's incarceration, a bad decision in their past, what advice would you give to a woman to overcome that stain on her life?
Let me say that I was always taught that there can be no testimony without a test. There are a lot of people that I have encountered in my life that will judge you more harshly than Jesus Christ himself. A mistake should not be worn like a scarlet letter. You know, I'm Bible-based and I was raised in the church. And my grandfather, and when my uncle would preach, he would often say, be thankful that we do not smell like our sins. So I'm not judgmental of people. And I do not believe that when one makes a mistake, because most people in this room at some point have made a mistake in their lives, that they should be judged by that. And I would urge people who have encountered such a situation to not allow anyone else to project on you who they say you are. Because most of us aren't who people have said we are. So you have to often, and this is unfortunate, but when you've had certain encounters, often you have to work harder, you have to run further, you have more to prove. But I would say that you need to find your village, that community of people who are willing to embrace you where you are, who will see you without disdain and without judgment, who are willing to help you. Because if we, the beloved community, would understand our role, is that not what we all should be doing for our fellow man? Embracing them, encouraging them, and giving them opportunities. And I will say that across DeKalb County, we do have programs for individuals who may have been incarcerated who choose to work with us. So please, don't allow other people to tell you who you are. And also understand, I'm reminded also, my grandfather used to say, be careful to whom you listen, because the sheep knows the voice of the shepherd, and to another he will not answer. When people speak things over you that are not true of who you are, you just simply rebuke them and you move on. Because most people will never understand and could not walk a day in the shoes that you wear. So I'm very sensitive to that, because in my life I've seen too many people who judge folk, keyboard bullies, who write and who have no idea
You felt that one.
what you've done and how much you've sacrificed. And truly, when you understand that the hand of God is upon you, there's not much other folk can say to you, because you're not looking at this from the same eyes in which I see.
Amen. Amen.
Can
Yes.
I add something real quick?
Absolutely.
You know, being in the justice system, I see this a lot. I see people, and especially in my class of court, I deal with misdemeanors. And a lot of the people that come before me are not before me because they're bad people. They've just made a mistake. And all of us make mistakes. There's not a single one of us here who can say, I've been perfect my whole life. And I think that one of the lessons that I have learned as a judge has been the power of accountability, the power of owning up to the mistakes you're made and understanding and giving yourself grace, but saying, I did that, but this is what I learned from that. And I think that when you can express what you have learned from your experiences, people will give you a lot of credit for that. And I think that that's a lesson for all of us too, as Madam CEO was saying, to give credit to other people who can tell us what they've learned from their mistakes. That makes them better people. That makes them better members of our community. That makes them people to follow in many ways.
That's a perfect segue. And whether you're from Lower Alabama or South DeKalb or Columbia, each of you have learned how to develop your voice, but each of you have power. Your power turned into, your voice turned into power here locally in our community. And really, I just want to give them a round of applause again for reaching the levels that they have reached, because I wonder if the younger version of you would have ever imagined the responsibility that you have. And so my next question is, once you found your voice, you step into influence, what has leadership taught you about the weight of that responsibility? And we can start on this side.
Absolutely. I would say, well, really quickly, I did want to add to the last question that you asked, just to say, and these women said it all, but something really quickly I wanted to add was that the way that I think about that last question is your testimony is the gateway to my breakthrough. So we need folks to have experiences. We need you to come through. We need you to share how far you've come and how you overcame, especially when it comes to the next generation, because representation matters, stories matter, experiences matter. And if they're going through something and they don't see a path forward because you haven't shared your experience, then that's a barrier for them. And the reason that we're here and that we serve is to make sure the future is bright. But I just wanted to say that really quickly. Now that I've talked so much, I need you to reiterate the question.
Once you find your voice, you step into influence, what has leadership taught you about the weight of that responsibility?
Oh, absolutely. The weight is heavy. It can be felt as a burden. However, the weight of leadership isn't meant to be carried by an individual and that individual alone. That's why relationships matter, partnerships matter. That's why your leaders have to be engaged with the folks that they serve, because you live the experience every day, and we can't be everywhere all the time. So it's our responsibility to make sure that we are engaging you, talking to you, understanding what your concerns are. But as heavy as the burden is to bear, is meant to bear community broadly. And that's why we have forums such as this, so we can share it with each other.
Absolutely. Commissioner Messiah?
Thank you so much. And just, experience brings character. So some of the experiences that we've gone through in the past certainly doesn't define who you'll be in the future, but it definitely brings character to who you will be, who you are and who you will be. And as it relates to my younger self, so I've shared, and some may know that I had a child at 16 years old. And especially when I'm speaking to the young folks, I'm always speaking to, you are not going to be what you look like in your past, and just continue to move on. Stay steadfast, but sometimes that does mean going at it alone. And to speak to the weight of the responsibility, sometimes that weight, as my colleague here has shared, Commissioner Bolton, sometimes that weight is heavy. And as Madam CEO shared, heavy is the crown. And you have to just carry it with grace, with dignity, with respect for others, understanding your assignment and knowing that other people may not understand your assignment. As long as you and God understand your assignment and you work steadfast at it, you will be just fine. So what have I learned? Just keep forging ahead, doing what he tells you to do, and at the end, you'll be just fine.
Judge Martinez, and then I'm going to come. I have a question for you, Madam CEO. Go ahead.
I will just say very quickly, being the first and the only has been a great testament to me of how heavy that weight can be. Because when I sit on the bench, I realize that I'm not just sitting as Judge Ana Maria Martinez. I'm sitting as a Latina judge, as the only Latina judge in a trial court. And when I make decisions, I know people look at me and they're going to walk away and say, that's what a Latina judge would do. Not what Ana Maria would do, but what a Latina judge would do. So I'm carrying the weight of my entire group of individuals, my entire community behind me. And that's what we do as women and as women of color when we take leadership positions, when we break barriers. So I think that's why it's so important to have communities like this one, to have a village, to make sure that we are fighting for others to join you. I hope I am the first of many, so that I don't have to be the only one representing my community.
Wow. I believe I'm correct in saying this. Correct me if I'm wrong. Madam CEO, you're the highest elected official in DeKalb County. Yes. Yes. That's weighty. That's weighty. There's a lot of responsibility there. What is something about that role in leadership that people don't see, the pressure behind the scenes? How do you Because you can't please, you know the number, it's 700, what, thousand?
780,000 residents.
Right. You can't please everybody, but day in and day out, you have to make decisions that are for the betterment of DeKalb County. How do you handle that weight from day to day?
Well, let me say, you know, often I respond and say that heavy is the head that wears the crown. You know, a lot of folks want to line up, but I will say that what I'm experiencing has been a very spiritual journey. And to be honest, I've entered a covenant. And I remember now clearly the moment that that happened, because I didn't understand what God had planned for me. You know, it's interesting, the young lady, and she's a sorority sister that came to bring me a card from an individual who used to work as a writer when I was the general manager of the Atlanta Daily World newspaper. So I was no stranger to responsibility, running things, but working with people. But God has a sense of humor because, to be honest, had I understood what I was signing up for, I would not be here today. Because I had never put myself in a position where I would be subjected to the scolding of people who didn't have the right. But I thank God that I'm able to deal with a lot that comes at me with such grace, because when you know what you do and whose you are, it really doesn't matter what you say to me now, because I understand what I must do for the people. And when you talk about, you know, you can't please everyone, there is a small group that truly you cannot. But you're not here to please, you're here to do your job. And I think so many people, you know, fail to realize, to be honest, today I have 4 engagements. Tomorrow I have 2. I literally work 7 days a week. I arrive every morning, I'm picked up and I'm ready to leave at 6:45. And this goes on to 8 and 9 o'clock. But one thing I found, and I believe God is placing his people that he's called into position at this time. We're at a unique point in history, because it doesn't matter who you are. I'm tired of the whole fight of the Republican, the Democrat, the black, the white, the brown, the rich, the poor, the liberal, the neoliberal. We are a community. And when we understand that, and you make decisions that are based on community, because if we ever get intelligent, we realize there's more that brings us together than what separates us. I've never seen a pothole care who filled it. I've never seen a road care who resurfaced it. It is about the work at the end of the day. I could sit here and walk down the streets of what I see, what we need. We need economic development. We need to revitalize South DeKalb Mall. Can't wait to tell you something coming up. I can tell you what the issues are. And I'm going to focus on those issues, because to help you understand what I see, where I sit, we spend millions of dollars, actually over $30 million last year, on public safety. But the number one underlying factor of crime is economics. If we focus on education and economics, then you would see that reduction in crime. So you have to look at things from an innate spiritual eye, and you have to know when to walk away from madness and insanity. Because if you don't, you'll get nothing done.
Amen.
And Pastor, in line, go ahead and give our CEO a round of applause. In line with what CEO was saying, and which I attempted to allude it to, with the burden that she bears, with the load as heavy as it is, y'all, that's why it's so important to make sure she has the support she needs to get the job done. So having a board of commissioners that can see the vision, what the word say, write the vision and make it plain. And people can follow a vision when it's clear. And we have someone who has a clear vision. So if on the other hand, you have a board of commissioners fighting against the vision that has been created that you voted for, we're not gonna get anywhere. So it's, you know, it's one thing to have a great leader, but you need to make sure you put people in place to support that leader. So, yes, ma'am. So in your decision-making and when you're getting involved and getting engaged, make sure you know who you're putting around your leader. Who is pouring into her, who is supporting her, who's bouncing ideas off of her, who's letting her know if she's getting too far across the line or out of line, and which we don't expect any of that, but we don't want yes men and women around her either. So when I say as a leader, the burden is heavy, but you're not expected to carry it by yourself. That's having a good team around you, whether she identifies that team or you identify the team for her.
My mom used to say, "Is not what you say, is how you say it. It's not what you do, it's how you do it." And so that's important, as you know, the responsibility that we all carry being on this stage, which is not easy, because we also carry the responsibility not only of DeKalb County and seemingly the world, but also of our families and of ourselves. And so a lot of times as women, and I just briefly wanted to speak to this, we carry the burden, we carry the responsibility, we carry the trajectory for everyone else, and we don't give proper time to carry ourselves and support ourselves and protect ourselves and love on ourselves in a way that we need to. And sometimes that is removing yourself away from, right? Staying in your space and staying still sometimes. And as my colleague mentioned, as Commissioner Bolton shared, finding folks to love up on you and support what you're doing as long as you're doing the right thing, right? So make time for yourself as well. That's really important, and I would be remiss on this celebration of Women's Month if I didn't say, take care of you as you're taking care of others.
Taking care of others. At some point, leadership becomes less about position and more about impact. What does legacy mean to each of you personally? And we can start with you, Judge Martinez. What does legacy mean to you?
You throw me the hard question. Let me go first. You know, legacy is obviously, when you look at the dictionary, is what's left behind, right? And
I've been the first Black woman to serve as the chief executive officer, but I surely will not be the last. Legacy for me looks like days when I have to make very difficult decisions, and I have to sit with myself, and I understand the consequences of those decisions. Because some of us have been put in a position where we impact the lives of others. And if you did not know, the greatest responsibility that a man or woman can have is the care of others. And sitting where I sit, legacy looks like when it's all over, and I'll never forget this, I'm going to share this. Probably about 3 years ago, we did a time capsule when we built a senior center, Elam Road maybe. And in that time capsule, they said, bring something that is important to you. And I literally wrote a letter to DeKalb. And that letter talked about what I would do when I became the CEO to help the people. Legacy looks like speaking things that are not as if they were, and they too shall come to pass, because you are so convicted in seeing those things happen that when other people don't understand, you already know. So for me, legacy makes me very emotional, because I feel that so often people have been given the baton and they did not run the race. And when I'm done, I want to leave it all on the field. That's what legacy looks like.
I like to think of it as, I Actually, I'm gonna use Michael Jackson as an example because my children love him. The two youngest, they're 7 and 10, and he was long passed away by the time they were even thought of. But I think that's one of the keys to live longer in death than most people live in life. And the way that you do that is through the legacy that you leave behind. People remember Michael Jackson because of how he made them feel, because of the impressions that he left on their lives, because of things they can see, feel, touch, taste, and smell, the memories that come back when they hear his music. And as servant leaders, we can do something similar. And we ask ourselves questions like, was this community better or worse before I got here? How have lives been changed because of my presence? Will it even matter when I leave? What is the impression that we leave behind? What are those things? As a scientist, I love to measure everything. There has to be a baseline so that I know where we are versus where we're going. How do we measure the impact? Because one of the things that I see pretty often in many communities is we have this habit of doing a bunch of stuff just to say we did something. But nobody actually knows the impact that it had on the folks that they were engaging with. So we spend all this money, this time, these resources doing all of these things, but the impact doesn't even exist.
Wow.
So I want to be able to measure the impact that I've had on the community 1, 2, 3, 4, 100 years. Was the world or that community left better because I was here? But how and how much is extremely important to me.
I'll say, and I'll speak to legacy in my role and responsibility as a commissioner. I'll start by saying I never prayed for a district before. So on the onset, after seeing some of the strongholds, realizing some of the challenges, some of which are systematic and that continue today, others of which are in their breakthrough era, I did not realize how much we fight against. Now, I know we fight against spirits and principalities, but I didn't realize that spirit until I came in as a commissioner and what that looked like serving in this capacity. So for me, legacy is breaking through and breaking past that so that we can have better, not everything that we want, sometimes not everything that we need, but certainly everything that we deserve from a spiritual perspective in terms of having the basic needs, opportunities, and to be able to do that in a responsible, purposeful way. So my give back from a legacy is I want to make sure I'm acting and decision-making on behalf of every one of the folks that I am indeed responsible for. And because I pray for you all, I pray for us all, this whole district, this whole county, I understand that I have a responsibility. My decisions will impact us 20, 30 years to come. And the worst thing that I feel like I could do, and this is the antithesis of a legacy, is leave this worse than when I walked in. So with every decision, I'm looking at not just the here and now, but what is it going to look like later, and how is it going to impact those folks? So how I leave it better than I found it makes a difference for me.
The Bible says a good man, a good woman leaves an inheritance for his children's children. And so live in a way that your impact lasts for generations to come. I'm excited about this part. We have a few young ladies who are going to ask you all a question. Let's start with Harper. And Harper, stand up, please, and let them know your name. Well, I told them your name, but also your age.
What a pretty name, Harper.
And what school you go to, Harper?
Okay, so my name is Harper Marie. I am 11 years old, and I go to Arcata Elementary, which is in the Gwinnett County, it's really close to DeKalb. And my question is, sometimes it's hard to believe in yourself. What helped you believe that you could become the leader you are today?
Whoever wants to.
I will take that one because honestly, when I ran for the Board of Commissioners, I had no higher aspirations. Actually, I didn't fully understand the magnitude of what that position was. But after I got there, because the one thing that I have, I often laugh and say I have a PhD in people and work, okay? So once I got there and started doing the work, I think sometimes from the outside looking in, you assume there's more than there really is when you pull back the veil. But I had such a strong work ethic that once I got there, I was like, oh my God, this is what's missing. You know, I saw things from a different lens. So at some point, I became very comfortable with the fact that, oh, not only can you do this, you can make a difference. You are needed at this table. So for me, just studying first, paying attention, and then I understood that yes, you can do this, and honestly, you can do a better job at this than others because we're all products of our environment. I will say that. And I'm thankful for being under the tutelage of people who were extremely hard on me because it made me never leave a stone unturned because I don't want you to come to me for anything. I want to do my job. So hopefully that answered some of what you were
Thank
asking.
you so much.
Judge Martinez?
I was incredibly blessed to have a mom who believed in me and who always who believes in me, who supports me in everything I do. But I know that I didn't always believe her. She was steadfast in her faith in me, but I wasn't so sure about myself a lot of times. And then I had two little girls. I have a 9-year-old and a 14-year-old, and honestly, the moment my little ones were born was the moment when I realized that there was no choice, that I had to believe in myself so that I could leave this world better for them, so that I could create opportunities for them. So there's a lot of faking it. I'm not going to lie to you. There's a lot of fake it till you make it. There's a lot of telling yourself, I can do this, even if you don't really feel that you can do it. But it's when you have those goals in mind, when you have intention in what you do, when you think about the people that are before you, that you want to leave a great legacy, we talk about legacy, for them, that you start believing in yourself. I think that that's the key when you give yourself a purpose.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Harper. Shayla, and Stan, let them know how old you are. And Shayla just moved down the street. She's a DeKalb County resident.
Hi, I'm Shayla. I'm 28 years old. And my question is, how do you balance pursuing your purpose while also dealing with the pressures of life, expectations, and sometimes self-doubt?
Obedience. Really just obedience, discipline, and sacrifice. Being obedient to the word and to his purpose and his mission in your life. Making sure you are sacrificing for that mission and disciplined enough to carry it out. And it's not always easy. We're going to step off the curve. When you step off, just make sure you step right back on. Right, so just employing those things. And to briefly touch on the previous question, sometimes you have to believe in yourself, right? You know the song, so encourage yourself in the word. And sometimes you are the only person that you have that's encouraging you, but you keep going, you never stop, just knowing, again, he's right there with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. And it is his plan. Nothing happens if he doesn't allow it to happen. And know that when it does happen, it is for your betterment and a betterment of others. So speak, be a witness to your experiences, high and low.
And tell me your name one more time.
Shayla.
Shayla. In a word, I would say consistency. The first thing that you heard me say when we opened up this morning is I was the nerdy, quiet girl all of my life through college. So for me to not just speak publicly in front of audiences, but to lead nearly 400,000 people in District 7 is a huge feat. And I've had self-doubt. I've had imposter syndrome. Let me rephrase that. I have self-doubt sometimes. I have imposter syndrome. But the thing that I realized, and it took me until probably in my 30s to recognize, is my ambition outweighs my character. No matter that I just want to curl up in a corner under a blanket by myself a lot of times. I may not want to talk on the phone or talk to people because sometimes it makes me uncomfortable, but there are things that I want and need so bad, I have to ignore what's comfortable for me and do what's necessary for everyone else. And you have to constantly talk to yourself or talk yourself through these things consistently. It'll continue to come back, but you know what? Every time you overcome it, it's a win. And it's something you should be proud of, because when it comes back up, when you try something new, and you're gonna try something new in every season of your life, you should, because that's growth. But every time that it comes up in a new season of your life, you can look back at when you overcame before and you said, well, I wasn't sure about this. I wasn't confident about that. I didn't think I could, but I did. I am my own example, and I have to consistently be an example for myself.
And if I could add, make sure you build a great village around you. As women, we are sort of expected to be the village, but we don't always are taught to have a village. You should not have just a village. You should have a board of directors around you. A board of directors who are your mentors and your guidance, your champions, people who you can go to for advice, and people who are going to speak your name when you are not in the room, and who are going to speak to it loudly. And that's one aspect of it, right? And then the other aspect is make the world smaller, right? Take things a day at a time. It is overwhelming sometimes, the decisions that we have to make, the things that we have to think about because of the impact that they have on everyone else. What I do is I make it smaller. I think, what can I do in the next 4 hours to get me closer to my goal? And that's what I focus on. Because if I think about the big picture, sometimes it becomes incredibly overwhelming.
Yes. And yes.
Thank you.
And Madam CEO just said, be protected. She said it to me, you all didn't hear, but be protected. I know Dr. King said, it's not the words of my enemy that hurts me, it's the silence of my friends.
Yes, and that was in response to what you said about having that person in the room who will speak your name, but also having that person in the room who will protect you. Because, you know, in many instances, I deal with a lot of false information, and you don't know until someone shares with you, and then you have a fiduciary responsibility to correct the narrative. It's unfortunate. I wish we could take the politics out of government, and then maybe we could get further down the road. But there's, you know, I've seen too much politicking around here. And oftentimes I will sit here and say that I've watched it be uncomfortable for people to do what's right, even when they know it. So my prayer is that not only are you in that room, but you will protect me.
These next two questions, just one of you can respond to, because I want to be mindful of you all's time. But Paisley, let them know your age and go ahead and ask your question.
I'm Paisley Shelby. I'm 13 years old. I go to Newton County STEAM Academy, and that's in Newton. Yeah. One of my questions were, did you know you've always wanted to be a leader, or did it happen over time?
Did you know you always wanted to be a leader, or did it happen over time? I want to hear all y'all answer that, but whoever wants to answer first.
I guess I'll get started. To be honest, I think I've just always, because of, again, I was raised out in a rural area, all alone, the only child out there with a whole lot of grown folk. So my nickname is Lady. I didn't act like a child. If you came to the house, I didn't want to play, I wanted to study you. Yeah, I didn't, you know. So I think I've always moved more towards just being almost parochial over situations, and that being parochial or turned into leadership at some point. But it wasn't anything that I want to be clear. I'm happy sitting on the sideline cheering as the parade goes by, but I have no problem stepping up. And honestly, most people in this room are, you know, in our church, we used to have a group called the Willing Workers. And it's the willing workers that become the doers, and the doers actually are your leaders. And I don't think it requires a title. It's just something that honestly, in many instances, to most people, sort of happens naturally. And it's just based on you being willing and also presenting yourself and allowing yourself to be used.
I just want to say that what Madam CEO just said is so important. You all, there is a misconception that a leader is someone who has a title. We are leaders in our community because we hold titles, but that's not what makes us leaders, right? You are a leader in your school. You are a leader to your classmates, to your siblings. You are a leader to your neighbors. You can be a leader in many, many different ways and to many different people. So being a leader is how much you listen to others, how much you create a vision and support others in accomplishing that vision, and how much you're willing to be a servant to others.
This is leadership for me is your behavior, not a title. So is what you do, how you do it, and specifically on behalf of others. And that is something that's innate in all of us, but is developed through time and through different experiences, some good and bad. And from this leadership perspective, sitting in this role, which is a title, it has taught me, like Madam CEO shared some of the things that she's learned, some of the experiences that she's been through, and didn't initially intend to run and be CEO. Before I came into this role, I never would thought I would have been an elected official or a civil servant either. I don't consider myself a politician as a civil servant, and for me, this is an extension of service. So it's that thing that's in you, and you just do it in different capacities, and sometimes those capacities come with a title. But just as you're going through your days in and out and seeing some of the things that your classmates are going through, some of the things that are going on in your school, some of the things you feel very adamant about, when it hits you in your spirit, have a conversation with God about it, with yourself about it, and then with your extended tribe, your others, to get their thoughts on it, and then speak on that issue, right? And that will further develop your character of that leadership quality. And the more you do it, and the more different experiences, and the more you learn, the more comfortable you'll get, and the more you'll want to advocate and speak and fight on behalf of others, and it'll continue to grow. Leadership is a journey, and it'll continue to go, and it'll continue to develop in different ways, and it's already in you.
Wonderful. And just another way of reiterating some of the things that have already been said, simply is just, so when folks see you're doing the work, you have a vision, they believe in the direction that you're going in, they'll naturally follow you. Now, the titles help with resources, don't get me wrong. But outside of that, naturally, people will follow you because you're doing the right things at the right time for the right reasons and for the right people.
Thank you, Paisley. Alea, tell them your age and this is my fiance.
Congrats.
She looks like one of the kids.
Really?
My name is Alea. I'm 30 years old, new to the 30 Club, just. For women who feel called to lead but feel overlooked, delayed, or unsure of their timing, what would you say to encourage them not to give up?
Wow. Let me say that I was always taught that success is when preparation meets opportunity. Don't worry about, and I want to encourage you, and don't you expect people to see what's in you. Often you'll never get the memo. I have been in rooms where I knew more about that particular topic than the people at the table, but no one invited me to sit there. And what I would say to you is, at some point in your life, when you work hard enough and you study enough and you know what you know, there will come a day and a time where people cannot deny what you bring to the table. So you show up each day and you just be prepared. When you arrive, if they don't open the door, go through the window. In the words of Shirley Chisholm, if they don't offer you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. But when you sit there, when you walk away, when you're really equipped, everyone will know that you deserved that opportunity. So I don't want us to focus on whether or not people recognize us. You recognize what's in you and you work every day. And sooner or later, the doors will burst open, and most importantly too, I'm a firm belief that opportunities come from God, not man. So when you understand that, your day and time will come. Just be prepared. Success is when preparation meets opportunity, okay?
Anyone else?
I would say find your passions, because that's where your success is. I love dogs. I am obsessed with dogs, if you will. I find that that's a place where I can lead, because I see so many needs that I can find. It's easy for me to come up with ideas to fill those needs. And that's really what leadership is, right? Is how do you inspire others? How do you bring about change, right? So find the places where you feel comfortable and where you feel passionate, you know? And I'm a firm believer that for everything there is a season. And just because you haven't had the opportunity to feel like a leader yet, it doesn't mean that that time is not coming. It may just be your time for preparation. Now, it's up to you to take that next step. Where do you see a need? You know, when I came to the United States and I came to my middle school and I didn't speak English, they told me that another girl from Latin America was going to meet me and was going to take me to my classrooms that day. And I was so excited because I had no idea where to go. And the bell rang, everybody took off, and I just stood there in the middle of the hallway, and nobody was there to meet me. And that was really, really scary, right? But what did I see then? That there was a need. There was a need for people to support the new students. So a year later, I started a program called the Student Ambassadors Program, where we trained people to help those people that had come new. So, you know, even as a 13-year-old, I saw a need and I found a way to fulfill it. Does that make me a leader? I think so. I think so. Nobody knows about it, but I do, right? And I have a feeling that that program has helped many people along the way. So just make sure you find your passion and find a need that you can help fill.
And be audacious. Right? Don't be afraid to be audacious. Again, Women's Month, sometimes we don't have enough audacity, and that's okay. Madam CEO just shared the Shirley Chisholm quote, and you know, sometimes it's bringing a folding chair to the table. Sometimes it is making your own table. And that's quite okay, because you make your own table, you can actually identify what's going to be there, what's not, and who's going to have a seat at that table along with you. So be audacious enough to do that. Before she was the first Black CEO, that table didn't exist. Before I was the first Black woman to hold the seat as the DeKalb County Commissioner of District 3, that seat didn't exist. Sometimes make your own table and your own seat at your own table and invite others to come.
And if I could add something real quick, because this is one of my favorite sayings ever, make sure you find a seat at that table, because if you're not on the table, you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
That's a good one. That's a good one. As we get ready to close out, I want you all to give closing remarks, closing statements, but to frame it this way. What's one thing that any woman in this room or watching online needs to stop doubting about herself, starting today? I want you to frame your closing remarks this morning with what's something that they should stop doubting about themselves. And we can go from left to right.
Perfection. You don't have to be perfect. You just need to be as prepared as possible. Do what's within your limits, and it doesn't, again, have to be perfect, but just do what you can do in that moment, in that space and time, and show up to your utmost in that space. And don't apologize to anyone else about not being perfect. Just do what you have to do for you, and make sure you have an inner peace and peace of mind, particularly when there's others that will try to take it away. As you know, as you walk more in your purpose, the more you're going to be attacked by the enemy. That's just going to happen. And your peace may not come from what's around you, but it certainly has to come from the inside. So make sure you have that peace, and don't apologize, and be comfortable with you.
Thank you.
I would say, don't try to fit in. It's your responsibility to stand out. You're not supposed to fit the mold, you're supposed to break the mold, because there's somebody who's looking for you. You're their inspiration and their motivation, and they can't find you in the crowd. So as long as you're sticking out, and it's gonna be extremely uncomfortable, but the more uncomfortable you are, the more you grow, and with your growth, you're bigger and brighter and more visible for the next person to be the example they need to see to do more. And we talked about burdens and loads and lifting before. So it's difficult when you're the first, but it's necessary. After becoming the first, that's an opportunity for more people to come in and help lay the path, carry the burden, be the support that you need to go on, and they'll be the support for the next generation. But with all things, don't try to fit in. It's your responsibility to stand out.
Thank you.
I would begin by saying that you are good enough. I don't want anyone here to expect people to give you affirmations, but speak them over yourself, okay? At some of my most difficult days, I've always enjoyed reading. When I had nothing, I had tons of books. So I am a huge poet, and I probably have a poem for most any situation that I walk into, because those were my affirmations. And with that, I'll say that you have the equipment you need. And I can remember being a graduate student at Auburn University, and back then we were such a minority on campus. Back during the Bo Jackson days and all that, of which y'all don't even know those athletes. But I went to the library, and I was standing there, and there was a poem sitting there, and the poem was called Equipment. And immediately I read it and devoted it to memory, and it simply says, figure it out for yourself, my lad. You've all that the greatest of men have had. 2 arms, 2 hands, 2 feet, 2 eyes, and a brain to use if you would be wise. With this equipment they all began. So start for the top and say, I can. Look them over, the wise and great. They take their food from a common plate. Similar forks and knives they use. With similar laces they tie their shoes. The world considers them brave and smart, but you've all they had when they made their start. You can triumph and come to skill. You can be great if you only will. You're well equipped for the battles you choose. You have hands, a mind, and a brain to use. And the man who has risen great deeds to do began his journey with no more than you. Don't you ever let anyone tell you that you can't do what you set your mind to do. It is completely up to you. My grandfather used to say, I once complained I had no shoes until I saw a man who had no feet. Don't complain about it, be about it. And as I said, when you study, education is the most liberating tool that can be used to change the world. you'll be prepared when that opportunity presents itself.
Thank you. Judge Martinez, close this out.
I would say believe in your gifts and believe that there is a place for you. And it is not about comparison. My place is not Madam CEO's place. We both bring a gift to this world, and we both can make a difference by doing the things that we do and by highlighting the skills that we have. I could never memorize a poem. That was beautiful. But I have other skills. And, you know, I have to believe in them, and I have to bring those gifts to the world and let them shine. And don't be afraid to let them shine. I love the men in this room. They're wonderful. But men have something that women don't have. Men believe themselves capable of doing many things, even if they're not ready. When there is a job opening, and it requires 10 years of experience, and a man could have 2 and say, well, but I've thought about it for about 8 months, so I think that that's good enough. Whereas women think that we have to be perfect, that we have to fit the exact mold in order to take the chance. Give yourself that chance. Believe in your gifts. There is a place for you. No matter where you are and what you bring to the table, the world has a place for you. God has gifted you amazing gifts that are needed in this world and that are unique to you and that are so important that you let them shine.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, let us give these phenomenal women a round of applause, thanking them for joining us today. Yes, sir.
From our community today, and I see Miss Jan Meadows here. Could you please join me, if I might? Thank you, Pastor Dial and CEO Lorraine Cochran Johnson, Nicole Messiah, Commissioner, and also Bolton and Judge Martinez. Along my side, come stand, please, Jan. We represent the Columbia Drive corridor. There's a critical problem we're having, and we need to bring it to the church today, on this Women's Day. And it has to do with severity at the Columbia High School situation. I'd like to read this email to each commissioner and the CEO for their response later. They've already received it today.
Yes, so we'll let you read it, and then they can respond when they have time.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, today, 11 a.m., Saturday, Embry Hills Library, Commissioner Robert Patrick's Town Hall meeting agenda includes an update by Commissioner Ladina Bolton and SPLOST 2 update by Mr. Robert Gordon, Director, DeKalb County Department of Public Works. The focus of the Town Hall meeting, of course, has to do with the update on SPLOST 1 and SPLOST 2. See, Lorraine Cochran Johnson, over the past year, 2025 to date, during your current administration as CEO, the Columbia Drive communities and citizens have asked for a public meeting with you and our designee to receive a comprehensive presentation on SPLOST 1 and SPLOST 2 for the purpose of finding out the status of street repayments of the Columbia Drive corridor from Columbia Woods Drive to Glenwood Road Phase 1 and Memorial Drive Phase 2. Our citizens, as recent as March 4, 2026, and immediately following Columbia Drive, Glen Irish Lane to Oregon Trail intersections. Our citizens, as recent as March 4, 2026, and immediately following Columbia Drive, Glen Irish Lane to Oregon Trail intersections, we were only provided an opportunity to have a Zoom meeting on March 12th. Today, as indicated in the attached Commissioner Robert Patrick's series of town hall meetings, public notice at the Embry Hills Library, as we speak. The agenda is an update on SPLOST 1 and SPLOST 2 and the DeKalb County Public Works Department update. We have requested this ever since your term of office, and we've never had a meeting. But they're getting it today in District 1. We don't want to bring it to the attention. We don't know why we can't get that same information. Why this desperate and dismissive response to the Columbia Drive communities and citizens has been a record dealing with the public health and safety of Columbia High School students, faculty, staff, pedestrians, and vehicle operators are at risk of bodily harm due to the levels of vehicle accidents documented in the Department of Transportation Traffic Accident 20-25 report and rarely observed bus-only lane and handicapped sidewalk ramp potential traffic hazards site design adjacent to the Columbia High School campus. Our citizens clearly understand. Your response is let the process work. Will you also provide in writing to our citizens, provide the calendar schedule for street and road assessment scoring and subsequent complete repaving of the Columbia Drive corridor and the adjacent communities of Spring Valley, where I've been a member for 52 years, Tony Valley, Ms. Meadows, who's representing Tony Valley, Tony Gardens, Columbia Valley, etc. As voted by the attendees, the video of documented request to you, which we can make available to this church if it would like to see the video of citizens on the Columbia Drive and Arch Lane to Argus Trail intersection on-site communities and residents March 5th meeting for the DeKalb County Department of Planning and to initiate a strategic planning process for the purpose of identifying strategies to reduce the levels of traffic accidents in the Columbia Drive and Glen Iris to Oregon Trail intersections is pending a response. We'd like to have a response, if you would, ma'am, to have a strategic planning process to address this problem because it's a major problem. And I just told this morning by a member of our community, she went to Johns Creek to have her taxes worked on, and they have all the modern technology around that school. And Columbia High School is in danger, and we just want help. Essentially, that's what they have to say. You want to say something?
Yeah.
We're mindful of time.
I know, being mindful of the time. Overall, of what Mr. Tolliver just stated, thank you all first for please being here. We've had more than 39 accidents in front of Columbia High School. If you go there, you will not see